What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's finally not a pay-per-view point. Those are coming next week. We are doing a mailbag for August 2019, and we're going to be answering the bulk of the questions that you guys have submitted for this Q&A round. Inbox is kind of full, so we can't get to all of them, but we're going to get to as many of them as we can for today. And we are Tony Mango, Robert DeFelice, and Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
Howdy. That's awkward. So, yeah, mailbag. Let's just get into it. If anybody doesn't know how a mailbag works, then I don't know. What are you doing? Well, let's go with Peter's questions. With Russi Taylor passing away, do you think that we will ever go back into Ned Flanders' classroom? First off, that's weird enough as it is to go back into Ned's classroom because of Mrs. Krabappel no longer being a character because of her passing. So Taylor had voiced Sherry and Terry, Wendell, Lewis, Martin, all these other kind of different characters. And she unfortunately passed away the other day. So yeah, The Simpsons lost another person who is a good chunk of the cast. And
just end the show.
They should have over a decade ago. I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum, but the show really was it was amazing for the first 10 seasons. Then you've got like 3 seasons more or so where there's like a good hidden gem once in a while. But that first chunk of a dozen or so seasons, that's amazing. And then it's just crap. And it's a shame because now you're seeing more and more people passing away, and I'm wondering if they're just going to wait until something big happens where it's like Tracy Yardley passes away or Hank Azaria or something, you know? And because if you lose Dan Castellaneta, you can't have a show.
Yeah, well, I think they should end the show before they get to that point and try to do something to tie it all together nicely.
Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of assuming at this point that those characters are just going to be written in the background or drawn in the background. And maybe some of them will have some kind of a recast, but I don't think so. They tend to just retire the characters more so than anything. But that's a shame because now there's like, God knows how many characters at this point are not available to use. Bleeding Gums Murphy.
Is Apu still just dormant?
No idea. I haven't seen a single episode of The Simpsons in a couple years. So Apu might be, and then you've got Bleeding Gums Murphy. You've got all the Phil Hartman characters. You got Krabappel. You got, I mean, the list goes on, and now another big chunk of them is gone. So that's a shame. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about The Simpsons that we haven't already talked about. Right? Anything else?
Yeah.
No,
that's about it.
What do you think of the Galar Pokemon forms since Galar is the UK? Callum, can you explain why Weezing has a Springfield nuclear power plant on his back?
Essentially, this Galarian Weezing has a top hat base chimney and a mustache and goatee made out of smoke. Because to a lot of other nations, that is what all British people still look like and still wear.
Yeah.
Even though that sort of trend died in the 1910s, 1920s probably. But we're all that people. I'm surprised there hasn't been a Pokemon revealed that is just a cup of tea.
Oh, it's going to happen. No, it legitimately is happening. There's one that they haven't revealed yet. Yeah. That's an elephant teapot.
Was it Big Move Scald or something?
It might be, because Scald is a move.
Yeah. That's all right. I've played enough of the recent editions of Pokemon to know the expansive number of moves that are available. The interesting thing about that, I did some research in that Galarian Weezing. The most interesting thing is its ability, which I can't remember the actual term for it, but it's an ability which will remove the ability of everyone else who's on the field with it.
Yeah, that might be one of those breaking mechanics. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the specifics of the more modern ones because I'm Gen 1 and Gen 2. Yeah. But when they've added all these other things where it's you've got an ability and you've got a hidden ability and you've got this EV thing and this IV thing and you got this thing and you add an item and you do that. that stuff's. I'm like, just give me a Mewtwo and just do Psychic, and I'll beat the shit out of everybody. But like, that seems to be a type of move that people would be like, there goes my entire team, and you know.
It would be considered pretty game breaking, apart from the fact that due to the fact that Pokemon Sword and Shield is only going to have a limited Pokedex, it's not going to incorporate every Pokemon from the previous one. It's likely that this Weezing won't be able to work its magic with some of the better Pokemon to be teaming up with because they probably won't be in the game.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother, like, I don't know why they're doing that. They're so lazy, and every element of their argument has been disputed already. They're like, well, we're working on the graphics, and people are like, then how come the graphics aren't as good as Town? And then they're like, well, because we need to redo the models. And then they're like, well, the models are exactly the same, and you future-proofed them. And they're like, well, fuck you. It's like, that's essentially what it is. So they spent more time going, oh, Top Hat Weezing? And somebody was like, indubitably. You know? I like how Callum says all this while he's clearly twirling his Hercule Poirot mustache and eating his Belgian buns and all the other stereotype things that.
Yeah, the Belgian bun thing is a real stereotype.
Oh, it totally is. Well, for you it is at this point.
Yeah, but it's my thing.
I like the design. I think it's kind of neat. But I can't say the same about the Linoon, I think the name is, and Zigzagoon and Obstagoon. Those are past my like connection point. I know there's like Pokemon that came out after Gen 2 that I'm a fan of. Like I like that Hydreigon thing. I think it's pretty cool. Or like Kling Clang is kind of fun. But the Zigzagoon thing, the Linoon, that's just kind of bland. And now that they're like, I like that they're giving it an evolution. That's cool. But I don't like Kiss. And the fact that it's just like, here's like a Kiss raccoon seems kind of dumb to me.
Well, it's meant to look like a badger, which are very common in the UK.
But like,
what's
Kiss?
the name of this?
Linoon.
Linoon and Zigzagoon and Obstagoon.
Huh. I haven't seen these latest updates. I've seen the Top Hat Weezing only because of the Doug Dimmadome memes, which I sent one in the chat. But I haven't seen what the newer ones look like.
Is there any that you guys can think of that you would really like to see a Galar form for?
I mean, well, it's just I've only seen enough with the Galarian ones to know that it's just a load of British stereotypes. So you're just expecting me to come up with a Pokemon that I really want to see with a monocle or a or a walking stick or something along those lines. Yeah, I want Sudowoodo in a monocle. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Why not?
I'd be okay with Fancy Psyduck.
Psyduck in a top hat that stops it from getting the headaches.
There you go.
What's like a really depressed Pokemon?
Psyduck.
Depressed. I want Psyduck with like that's always being followed by a cloud of rain.
Well, he's a water type, so it works. It makes sense. Yeah. I could see. There's been rumors that the what's the water starter? The little. No, the one from this one.
Oh.
Because there's Scorbunny, which is an awful fucking name, and then there's the Grookey and Sobble. Some rumors going around that that's going to end up becoming a spy, and it's going to be like James Bond themed, which I don't know how that's going to work, but that seems pretty cool. And I don't know if they can do something like mod related, but that'd be kind of funny if you see something that's like, I don't know why, like a Snorlax that looks like Flash Morgan Webster. You know, like that'd be kind of funny.
Well, wouldn't the Snorlax look like Dave Mastiff?
Yeah, that's true. Massive Dave Mastiff. Needs to be a thing. But I like the idea that they're doing these, because that's a fun way to keep things fresh in the future. And I don't know how they could do that with like some of the past things, because Kanto isn't really like, that's pure Japanese. It's like, nah, it's just sort of a generalized sort of thing. But if they could do that for the French one, I can't remember the name of it now, like, you know, add some more like French inspired forms and stuff, like that's a cool way to actually work on a product. And
yeah, it's a really good way to perpetuate stereotypes and light racism across the world.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another thing too. Depends on where you take it. If it's like what's the dragon from the flag? There's a name for it specifically, right?
I haven't really been keeping track of it enough.
No, I mean in the UK.
Like the UK flag?
Yeah.
Oh, the Welsh dragon.
Yeah. Doesn't it have like some other kind of name? Or is it just the Welsh dragon?
I don't. I mean, I don't live in Wales, so I haven't figured it out too
Oh,
much.
but I will Google this.
Big red dragon thing. Well, like for that thing, for instance, there's one that looks kind of like it. I'm blanking on its name, but it's a dragon type, and it's got like a red head, but like a blue body. And I would think that that would be a good one to kind of make like, okay, well, we're going to do the Galarian form of that, and it's going to be entirely red. Like, that'd be a good way to kind of factor that in.
And apparently it's just called the Welsh Dragon.
Huh.
Yeah, or the Red Dragon.
Well, that's a Hannibal movie.
Idragok. That's how you say it in Welsh.
Ah, that ain't happening. I ain't saying that. So what the hell's that dragon type that I'm thinking of? Now it's bugging me. That dragon is Drodagon. Yeah, like do like a Welsh dragon inspired from that, and you know. But see, I would think more like instead of Kiss being the thing to inspire the whole Obstagoon thing, I would think Ozzy Osbourne. And do
you
like
really got a Kiss vibe from
Yeah,
that?
what? Yeah, why do you think anyone has even thought of Kiss for designing this stuff? Just because it vaguely looks like Kiss doesn't mean that Kiss. They were looking at a picture of Gene Simmons and think, okay, we have to make a Pokemon out of this.
it's got the tongue sticking out and everything. That is
It's not
full
Gene
blown.
Simmons. It's not Gene Simmons. It's not.
I'm pretty sure Obstagoon is going to have a hidden ability called Gene Simmons.
Yeah,
He doesn't even look like that anymore. This is like really old. This is like 90s Kiss or whatever.
Yeah, still.
well,
We don't know which
that's
Bond
okay.
that the one's based off of. It might be Roger Moore.
It definitely might be Roger Moore.
That would be kind of funny if it's just kind of like, out of all the ones, you can go with like, well, everybody would kind of naturally go with Sean Connery. Oh, maybe you would go with Daniel Craig since he's the current one, and somebody's just like, fuck it, George Lazenby. You know?
That would seem like a sort of thing where if you treat your Pokemon badly, it evolves into Roger Moore. And if you don't, then you get Sean Connery or you get Pierce Brosnan or something.
I went the Timothy Dalton one. He's the best Bond. Let's see what else we got here going on. Oh, you know what? Fuck it. I just mentioned that the Ozzy Osbourne thing. Make it a bat type thing. Like,
yeah, there you go. That's...
some kind of bat related thing with Ozzy Osbourne. Fuck it. Yeah. Blood shoots all over the place. make it a rated R game. Another question for Peter. Did you watch the Rocko's Modern Life movie, Static Cling? I think is the name of it. Static Cling?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you watched it. I didn't. Callum, did you watch it?
No.
So we're kind of... Oh, I tried to watch it. I'll put it that way. So Callum's a no. I'm a try. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I laughed the whole way through and got a kick out of the creator of Rocko's Modern Life basically telling everybody to get the fuck over the 90s and move on. And yeah, I thought it was great. Peter.
I shut it off by the time that they were introducing Ralph Bighead because it was just really loud. And I kind of got this feeling that like if I were to watch the whole thing, I'd feel really depressed that I didn't like it. And that I would want to go back and check out old episodes and find out that I actually don't like Rocco. So I'm like, I need to preserve my memories of really liking this show. Because I remember
Were you
liking...
at all a fan of Zim?
What's that?
Were you at all a fan of Invader Zim?
That's past my time.
Yeah, they put an Invader Zim thing out there. I haven't seen it yet, but I plan on it soon.
Yeah, I've never seen a single episode of that. The little robot dude is kind of cute.
Hilarious.
Is that Zim?
No, that's Gur.
Yeah. Well, he's a cute little dude. But yeah, I kind of got Ren and Stimpy vibes from this, and I was like, man, I've seen Ren and Stimpy since growing up, and that does not hold up.
How fucked up is that shit?
It's so fucked up. Like, there are some jokes about that in theory work really well. I still think "Don't whiz on the electric fence" is really catchy and everything, but a lot of it's just like, here's a pile of rotting flesh and like some stink lines on it and all that, and that kind of noise, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe these things don't hold up all that well, and I don't want to ruin Rocco for myself and finish the rest of this and hate it or something. I tried. It's not as good as the best Rocco joke that I can remember though, with the whole get some bagels. I think it was so good. What do you think of Kevin's WrestleZone joke about fighting you, Rob, for the fast food SummerSlam? Speaking of Kevin, can we give an honorary fuck that to Scalper? All right, you got to fill me in on this.
No, it's essentially asking about how Kevin from WrestleZone, Kevin Kellum, was joking about having to fight Tony for Rob over the fast foods during the fast food.
Oh right, he did say that he would fight anybody because he doesn't want to share me with people. But apparently, I'm shared with the entire internet wrestling media because I work for a lot of sites. But Tony, you might be able to do some wheezing attacks on him. You got asthma. Use your wheezing.
I don't have a top hat though, or a mustache, so I got to get on the ball with that.
Just for the record, I would take a dive. I'm fine.
Oh.
I'm fine. I'm fine with Kevin going over in that situation.
well, fuck, Alan. I thought we were cool.
Hey, I'm not gonna. Rob, we are cool, but I'm not gonna fight I'm not gonna fight. You know me. I'm just like ease back. Like I'll let Kevin get one over on me. I'll fight him in the rematch for the fast food.
Fair enough. I'll still sit in the DeLorean with you every week or month.
Yeah, he's not coming along. It's already crowded enough in there.
Yeah.
Plus, it's only a 2-door thing, right?
Yeah, and you've got to put room for the flux capacitor as well. And that thing like wears out, and it gets really hot in there because every time you go back, it just comes a bit close to exploding. Also, the plutonium is really expensive.
Yeah.
I wish I knew more about Back to the Future to throw in some like real deep dive jokes, but I don't. So Biff. I don't know how that works. Does Carmella look stupid for not pinning R-Truth for the 24/7 title? Not really stupid. I think that it's just like she's just being a good friend, but it's gonna happen. She has to at some point.
I just think, like you say, it's rare to see somebody actually be a good friend in WWE and look out for their partner's interest and not just act for themselves. So maybe that's the reason why it looks so stupid, because you don't see people actually stick up for their friends in WWE. Especially on the babyface side.
I mean, I don't know. I always thought the first female champion should have been Carmella and not, freaking Kelly, but missed opportunities.
They don't care. It's not like they're going to be like, well, we got to make sure that the record books reflect that this person was the historic first ever, It's like, this is a gimmick-ass title. They're just kind of throwing shit. So at some point, Carmella, she might not even, like, actively pin R-Truth on purpose. It might be one of those things where they both get, like, knocked out, and she gets knocked out on top of him or something, and then John Cone is just sort of ringside, and he's just like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, all right, Carmella's champ, They might do something like that, or she might turn heel, or they might not even have her turn heel, and she might just be like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to win the title, and then they have a little hashing out thing or something, but it's gotta happen.
I'm still just constantly amazed at how much legs this pairing has had since R-Truth made a random joke backstage about beating Carmella for the women's championship.
Yeah. Getting her confused with Maurice and everything. Like,
yeah, it's like it's been a year and a half since then, and they're still a team.
They're going strong.
Just goes to show you that sometimes you can plan a lot of these things out, and then it's these stupid random things that end up catching on a lot more. So crazy. When Blissful Cross, is that their name? Kind of like that.
No, but I like it.
It's better than just being like, Lex to Nikki or something, like the way that they do something like that.
I prefer Bliss Cross. Now everybody clap your hands. There we go.
Bliss Cross will make you want to jump.
Yeah, exactly.
When they won the women's tag titles, Peter had thought that Mandy and Sonya would win, since Mandy's from New York, Sonya's from New Jersey. Why do you think that they didn't win the tag titles at Mania for the hometown pop? I think it's because that's not as common knowledge. Like, they don't really hit on that all that much.
Yeah, and also they don't give a fuck about these championships, and so they're just going to put them on whoever they feel like.
I believe the story that the Bellas told about it being the Iconics versus the Bellas.
Yeah.
And I think they thought, oh my god, this will create such cool moments on the microphone. So they went with the Iconics, and they sat on their asses with the Iconics for 3 months, and I definitely think Sonya and Mandy should have gotten it on that episode of Raw, and not Nikki and Bliss. But whatever.
Yeah, I think that they just kind of figured that they would put more emphasis on the Iconics, and if they wanted to, they can get around to Fire and Desire at any point, and they just haven't.
Sonya Deville's a great wrestler, I think. As far as like when you think of somebody who started in Tough Enough, I think she's become a very good wrestler considering her background.
She's underutilized, I think. I wouldn't go so far as to put her like in that range of she should win a championship beyond the tag titles. But I do feel like she hasn't been given the opportunities that she probably should. Hopefully that changes.
Fair.
Do you think that Trish has had her last match? No.
You never say that you've had your last match in wrestling.
She's done so like 3 times.
Yeah, but because it's always false.
Yeah,
I mean, she wrestled at WrestleMania with Snooki and John Morrison, and she's come back for random episodes of Raw, and she was there at Evolution, and she was there at SummerSlam. So I think there's still at least a couple more matches left in her. A lot more money to be made.
You figure Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Alexa Bliss. She's expressed interest in wrestling all of them. And like she put over Flair, and she might think that this is the end of it because they were in Toronto, and how much longer is she going to want to do this and whatever. But I don't know. I think that 3 months from now they might be like, "Wow, Sasha Banks is really hot as champion right now, and who do we have her fight? I know." And then that could be a thing. Never say never.
They're gonna go. Hey, Alexa, remember we were supposed to have that tag match at Evolution? Well, guess what? Lita's here, and Evolution 2019, we're gonna do the women's tag title match. Yay!
Yeah, they could do that. That could definitely be how they pull that off. So if they do get an Evolution announcement at some point, that would not shock me. And then that defeats the whole purpose of the retirement thing. But then again, how many times has Terry Funk retired?
Forever.
Richard. I love that whole thing that he does. Peter's last question here. Do you think that the TNA stars who went to WWE are wishing that they didn't go? I think that somebody like an Eric Young is regretting it, and maybe Robert Roode, but I don't think that AJ Styles or Zelina Vega or some of the other ones are.
Yeah, he specifically singles out Vega and Styles as not regretting it, but I think Joe is happy where he is. I think nobody would regret it, really. Eric Young might not be utilized on the main roster, but he had a great run in NXT. I don't think he regrets that. I don't think Robert Roode regrets the glorious thing. He might hate the fact that the main roster's done nothing with him, but, he had a great push during NXT, and he often said that the glorious thing was the most over he ever felt like he was. So I don't think anybody regrets it. Maybe EC3. I take that back.
Plus, they have to like the idea that they're getting a steady paycheck.
That's true too.
Yeah, I think it just depends entirely on the circumstances. I think some of them will be a lot happier now they're in WWE. Some people will feel a bit underutilized, but feel a bit more secure in the situation that they're in. And some people will be counting down the days until they can go to AEW or Impact Wrestling or something along those lines.
Well, like Kalisto.
Yeah. 10 months, free agent. It's like, that's a great thing to tweet out.
Yeah, I'd probably say that the person who's probably regretting it the most is EC3 joining WWE.
Yeah, which is a shame.
I think he would maybe not still be in Impact Wrestling, but either in AEW. AEW would be stupid not to give him an opportunity, but if not that, then in the NWA.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to end up going at some point. I think that they've proven by now that they have no interest in actually pushing him on the main roster. And unless there's something to this whole NXT thing, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but if that 2-hour bracket means that they're going to need to incorporate more people, maybe EC3 goes back to NXT and maybe he actually becomes what he should have been. That might be the only saving grace. Let's go to Howard's questions. He has two of them here. During the 1980s, wrestlers had worn makeup, but in today's wrestling, wrestlers are sporting more tattoos on their bodies. So let me ask you this. Are tattoos the new makeup?
We've done this question before, haven't we?
No, I think we've discussed it because it was
It
coming
was,
up on
yeah,
the previous one.
when we were talking
Okay.
about which questions were on the bubble. But we kind of off camera, like we're on screen right now. We talked about it a little bit. It's kind of yes and no. It's not really in the same conjecture, but at the same time, you do have to see that there is a little bit of a similarity because makeup used to be. I mean, makeup's always been used to like enhance features or to put on a performance or even a performance when it comes to just people walking on the street. They're putting up a performance that they're a better looking person or oh, I look like a skull or whatever the fuck. And tattoos are a variation of that. It's somebody that wants to add something to their appearance to make people have a different visual representation of themselves. So I can see the connection point with that.
I think it's just a change. I think it's just a change of perceptions, really. It's all on the lines of like tattoos are replacing makeup. But I think it's on the lines that tattoos are more generally accepted nowadays than they were in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah,
I think
because
during
now
that time the aesthetic was more along the lines of you present a very superhero like physique, you are unblemished along those sort of lines. Whereas nowadays people are allowed to do whatever they want with their body, and that's totally fine. They can do what they want, and so it's a more open and liberal society, or at least it should be.
Well, when I read this question, I assumed he was mostly referring to like guys in the 80s who used to rock a lot of face paint. And I didn't even think about the fact that, yeah, a lot of the wrestlers in the 80s did go around with makeup. But I think the tattoos aren't really a replacement for that. They're different in that everybody has tattoos. I think even back in the day when wrestlers used makeup, they were used sparingly and they were mostly used for the gimmick. Now you have tattooed wrestlers because the man or woman is tattooed and it's just being carried over into their character.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't really put as much of a focus on something like Randy Orton's got some tattoos. Let's make that part of his character. He's still just Randy Orton. But then again, sometimes that seems to make somebody look a little better, or in some cases, like a TJP or something, it throws you off.
Yeah, I've seen TJP pictures recently. It did throw me off.
Yeah.
Also, the face paint was very much of a time where wrestling was very cartoony. Like the people that would wear face paint were obviously the Road Warriors were a pretty big deal, but you have people like Kamala and Papa Shango
Ultimate
and the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
They're just big, larger than life characters that would put face paint on. And nowadays, it's a lot more. I don't want to say like super realistic, but you go along the lines of it feels more organic than just a big giant cartoon.
And yet, Luke Gallows is suddenly just like, "Hey, I want to do that again," and you're like, "That's not."
He did that during New Japan,
and I'm
he's just
cool with
decided
it.
doing that now.
I think it's weird. It'd be different if like they dressed like that seemed to match, or if Anderson had something going on or whatever. To me, it just kind of seems like Carl Anderson and AJ Styles are friends, and they got to hang out with Luke Gallows because, like, I don't know, he's a coworker or something. Yeah, he's like the weird dude where they're just kind of like, yeah, we're cool. Yeah,
Hey, Luke.
hey Luke, buddy. You can join us. We're all gonna go to Applebee's, and we didn't hear that we didn't think that you overheard us, but yeah, you can join in.
Hey, can I wear the face paint? No.
Yeah,
It's
I think it's part of the dress code.
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
I think you might want to tone it down on that a little, pal.
Still
But-
better than Festus.
I don't know. I liked Festus to a certain extent. Couldn't do it now, that's for sure. But speaking of that works into the next question. When I hear the name Shorty G, it reminded me how they changed Jesse from Jesse and Festus to Slam Master J back in 2009. If you remember that he was supposed to be this poor man's rapper and the gimmick was quite awful. Do you think that Chad Gable's going to go this route? I think that they are, and I freaking hate it. They trademarked Shorty G, and there had been rumors that that was going to be a Chad Gable thing. And then now on this week's episode of SmackDown, Shelton Benjamin put up a sign that said you must be this tall to be able to compete in the King of the Ring tournament, while Chad Gable was talking about, being underestimated for his height and everything like that. So it's coincidental timing at the very least that Shorty G and Chad Gable and a short thing is going on. This is going to be a career killer for him if they do this.
I didn't even know this was a thing. I don't like the sound of this at all. This sounds awful. I laughed at the "you must be this tall" to be King of the Ring because I figured next week Chad Gable will go in there and they'll have a great match and that'll be the end of it. I didn't know that they trademarked Shorty G.
Yep, they did.
I'm worried that this, maybe not so much a rapper gimmick like the Slam Master J thing, but it's going to be an alter ego for Chad Gable, where he decides that he's not going to take it anymore and he's going to basically absorb his shortness. He's going to just live the short guy gimmick and become Shorty G as a guy who's going to overpower. And I think it's kind of similar to what they wanted to do with Neville, making a Mighty Mouse character.
Oh God, if they're bringing that back again.
I hate the sound of all of this.
Well, that's why you can look forward to about a year and a half time where Gable is having actual matches in AEW.
Yeah.
Instead,
yes.
Because that is, I don't want to say every guy should be going there because we don't know how well AEW is going to look, but let's face it, there is absolutely nothing for Chad Gable in WWE going forward, especially if this is his future.
And they could very easily do something with him if they just keep him on 205 Live. That's all they have to do. He has looked better on 205 Live in 2 or 3 matches than he has in years.
Well, I imagine 205 Live is going to die soon.
There's a possibility. That whole switch with the Fox thing, and if they wanted to add a third hour to it, maybe they would incorporate it as just we're getting rid of 205 Live as a brand, but now the Cruiserweights are on SmackDown. Or they just make the Cruiserweights cross-branded. Yeah, that can happen too.
But that's fucking awesome.
But just along the lines of Gable, I know it's just the Olympic background and all stuff like that, but I just think of it and look and say, well, Kurt Angle was never that tall. So imagine if they decided to, when Kurt Angle first came into the wrestling business, decided to stick him with the gimmicks they've stuck Chad Gable with.
They would call him Low Angle.
Yeah.
A cute angle.
Yeah, you can't take a gimmick like this and make it seem like it's that old adage of, does Vince McMahon see you main eventing WrestleMania? Would he honestly see Shorty G main eventing WrestleMania? No. So don't fucking do it. That's simple.
You think Shorty G, kind of like the Cena thing, is something that was said on a bus in an overseas tour? And it just so happens one of the writers or one of the figureheads were like, I didn't know you like to be called Shorty G. That's a thing now. We're doing that. It's like, oh, fuck.
I could 100% see a scenario where they're all just kind of hanging out backstage or something. And maybe even it has something to do with the rapping side of things. So far, they haven't hinted at that. But, maybe somebody's just, fucking around with Chad Gable. And he's like, oh, yeah, hey, I'm Shorty G. And people are like, I fucking love it. And it's just sort of you're that from now on, because that's more entertaining than you being a good wrestler in a wrestling program. It's a shame if that's the case.
I like how your instant Vince impression is, it's such good shit. I love it.
Because it's basically what it is, isn't it? It's either that or I could just say something about chocolate titties, apparently. That's another one of his go-to things. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Next week, we should get some kind of indication for the King of the Ring side of things, and if he just flat out beats Shelton Benjamin and there's no stupid Shorty G thing, then maybe they drop that. Maybe they just trademarked it because they wanted to get ahead of the game, but I think it's doomed if that's the case. Let's go to Rachel Miller. Why is WWE Main Event showing a women's match on a weekly basis these days? I don't see the problem behind it, if that's the context, but I think that there's kind of a mandate, or at least a concerted effort to make sure that there's a women's match on every episode of WWE television. Because if you look at Raw, you look at SmackDown, you look at NXT, especially when it comes to something like an NXT or an NXT UK, they make a point to always have at least one of those matches. Even if it's something that's a very quick thing, like Shayna Baszler just beats the shit out of somebody or whatever, there is usually a breakdown of like 3 to 5 matches, and one of them is always a women's segment, which is good because, if you don't have the women's division represented in some capacity, then what's the point? And then you're going back in time and everything. And lately, it's seemed like their go-to thing is just Sarah Logan and Dana Brooke have had God knows how many main event matches. But if
Oh, I
that's
get
the only
this.
way that they can do that, then, it's better than them not doing anything, right? There's at least 5 people that watch main event.
And it's good for them. They're getting exposure. They're getting a chance to get better in the ring. I don't see a problem with that at all. I mean, granted, I don't watch main event.
Nobody does. What exposure
Yeah.
are they getting? They're getting negative exposure, if anything. I almost feel like main event is like the vacuum of WWE. You actually, by watching it, you're actually reducing numbers anywhere else. It just feels like this really empty space.
I really, really hope with this whole potential third hour of SmackDown and the extra hour of NXT, I don't know when this Hulu deal goes up, but with the Disney and Fox merger and the Hulu side of that switching around, I'm assuming that their contract is going to end sometime in the next year. And if that's the case, they have to drop main event. And people like Dana Brooke and Sarah Logan and EC3 and what were the main event Muscle Crew, I think is what they were trying to go by. The group of people like Robert Roode and Cesaro and whatnot.
It was Robert Roode, Cesaro, and EC3. It was actually... Listen, it was something Renee Young said. I'll break the fourth wall here. Tyler Treese on WrestleZone made a quick post about it, and I think people jumped all over it because they thought, oh my god, this sounds totally like something people would do. But I don't think it was ever meant to be a thing for real.
Maybe not, but hey, it would have been better than them doing nothing. And if this whole Hulu thing can eventually go away and main event can just die off because clearly WWE does not give a shit about it, then incorporating Logan and Brooke and all these other kind of names into maybe just switching them to SmackDown to add for that extra hour if they do that, or sending them back down to NXT, whatever that is that they can do to better utilize that time and that roster placement is better.
Better is better.
Can't believe it's not better. Let's go to Michael Patrick. Even though he just signed a new contract with WWE, Undertaker's in-ring career is winding down. If he has only one final match, and assuming he goes out on his back, who would you like to see bury the dead man once and for all? So this is kind of, I guess, slightly the opposite of the one more match kind of thing. It's one final match. I think everybody's answer could potentially be Bray Wyatt, but I don't want to do that whole overrating thing and just be like, he's the next best thing, give him the championship, have him take out the Undertaker, have him be a 14-time world champion in the next year. So it makes sense in a supernatural way because there's no other character in WWE that could play off that kind of side of things right now. But if you ignore that, I could see maybe Braun Strowman fitting the bill.
I don't know. This sounds like a job for Shorty G to me.
I guess the Fiend would be a good answer for this. I also think Roman already did it, and it was perfect, and they should have left it die there. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Fiend because I'm basic.
Well, I think at the moment the only 2 people that really fit the bill that hasn't been done already are Braun and. I know he has fought Bray Wyatt before, but as the Fiend character, like maybe you could do something with Finn Balor if you really wanted to push him hard off the back of that. But I don't think there's anything else that really fits besides Bray or Braun.
Well, hear me out. The Big Show could use a push.
Out the door, yeah.
Or maybe they incorporate somebody who is on the lower end of the roster right now and they want to give him a big push. I'd be hesitant to do something like this, but even a guy like a Dominic Dijakovic, if they really wanted to try to make him a big deal, maybe.
Hey, Batunde's big.
Yeah, he is big.
He is.
Colby Carino isn't, but
it'd be great if Lars Sullivan's making a return.
I really want him to just get released. But yeah, they have options of some of those things. Jordan, I can't remember his last name from NXT, that super huge, like 7'9" guy.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. That super big dude. He could do it. Punishment Martinez, forgive me, I don't know the Damian Priest, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, Damian Priest, that'd be a fun match, depending on what route you want to go with for him.
Or you know what? I mean, this could be one of those odd situations where they just want to go with somebody who isn't necessarily some like over the top big character type of thing, and it could be like a Tommaso Ciampa. Just like
You're right,
have
that's
him
what
do
I
it.
was-
We'll just
that's
have
what the
a
world is clamoring for.
yeah, have a little guy that can have a better match with the Undertaker and do all the stuff for him before winning. Like maybe a Ricochet or something along those lines. Ricochet versus the Undertaker. Ricochet's the one that finally defeats the Undertaker once and for all.
Let's go to another question here. Do you prefer the current direction of Bray Wyatt only showing up sporadically as the Fiend, or would you rather Sweater Bray be there every week warning people not to provoke the Fiend? I still am of the opinion that I want Sweater Bray Wyatt to actually wrestle.
I hope he does one day. I think that'd provide an interesting element to the character. Right now, I like everything that they're doing with the Fiend, with Sweater Bray, as I guess we're calling him. There's clearly something more there. One of the puppets is gonna open their mouth and reveal what the Funhouse really is, and when we get there, I think Sweater Bray will die. But for now, I'm really enjoying the schizophrenic character.
I think it's good to have the mixture of both. Maybe not necessarily have the Sweater Bray Wyatt wrestle matches, but maybe come out for matches in the sweater and say that he doesn't want to wrestle or something to that effect, or just lay down for matches because he doesn't want to hurt people. He's the kind remnant of the Fiend's soul that still exists that's going to prevent him from doing stuff. And then the Sweater Bray could leave the ring, and then the other guy wrestles another match, and then the Fiend's attacking him afterwards, just to give him enough time to get the gear on and do the stuff that he needs to do. I like the fact that it's a split personality character. It works for him.
I do hope Sweater Bray hugs people while being pinned or while pinning people.
Who is your winner in the current chicken sandwich triple threat? Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, or Popeyes? So yeah, this is apparently a thing where there's like a competition going on. I haven't really looked too much into it, but
So I didn't know Wendy's was involved in the mix, but I know Popeyes and Chick-fil-A have been going at it back and forth. Real quick, I don't like Chick-fil-A. I don't like Popeyes. I think they're too salty, and Wendy's by default wins. But even I'm not crazy about fast food, in spite of the stupid work I've done involving fast food characters.
Callum, do you have all three of them over there?
I'm aware that we have Wendy's over there. I've heard of the other ones, but I've never seen them in the country. So I've never been to any of them. I've never had any of their chicken sandwiches.
So Popeyes, to me, I've only had their fried chicken, and I've only had it, I think, like thrice in my life. And I've never had a chicken sandwich to be able to compare anything to, but I've never been all that fond of their regular fried chicken, so I can't imagine that they would be good. Chick-fil-A, I do not like pickles, so if they put that pickle in that fucking sandwich, it's ruined. And if I'm in the mood for Chick-fil-A, nothing tastes the same as Chick-fil-A. I'm a fan of Chick-fil-A. Not a fan of the waffle fries, though, I have to say that. But Wendy's is overall the best fast food place, and their chicken sandwiches are good. So if I want like lettuce and bacon and cheese or whatever, I'm going to go Wendy's. But if I just want pure on Chick-fil-A hunk of chicken on a fucking bun, then getting Wendy's isn't going to feel quite the same. Let's go to Frankie. Current thoughts on Big Brother 21. Aren't you pissed like I am that Cat is gone? Who do you think is going to win? As it's just about the halfway point right now, thinking Tommy and Holly in the end for some reason. Tommy being named the winner. I'm behind in about a week and a half or so. So I'm aware that like Jackson is, I think, like HOH right now or something, or that might have even passed now I'm thinking about it. Missed Cat's elimination, and She was kind of fun, so that's a little bit annoying. I'm not a fan of some of the people that are left, though. I don't like Jessica. I'm not a big fan of Holly. I think that Annalise is just sort of meh. So I'm hoping that Tommy and Jackson are the final two, if I can remember correctly out of the list. Maybe Cliff. I like Cliff. But yeah, I've fallen behind a little bit on that. Busy week.
Yeah,
Rob,
I
have you
fell
been
way
watching?
off. I
Yeah.
fell way off.
It's hard to get into it if you don't love the cast. Let's go to... Okay, so I incorporated all these into one quick thing. A couple food questions. Do you like Tostitos, Pop-Tarts, and peas? Not together, obviously.
First of all, not together. Tostitos are okay depending on what you're dipping them into.
Yep.
Pop-Tarts are fantastic depending on obviously what kind you get. And peas are the worst thing in the world. Peas can go die a slow and painful death. I don't like peas, but I feel like Callum's going to disagree on that.
Yep, peas are great. Just one of my favorite vegetables. Just slide right in. They're just really. They're just small. They're just so they taste good. I haven't tried Tostitos, and I think I've had one Pop-Tart in my life, and I wasn't a fan. So
it's shorty peas all the way for you?
Tostitos to me are the type of thing that if I'm feeling like eating those like nacho chips, then they're perfectly fine. Like they're probably the best version of that you can get out of just like, you go to a grocery store and just pick up some kind of chips like that. But man, I'm always going to go Doritos over Tostitos. They're not the same type of thing, but still, if I'm going to eat a chip, I'm going to go Doritos instead. Pop-Tarts, I mean, they're just not good. Every once in a while, I feel like eating one. I'm usually disappointed, but then I still feel like eating one every once in a while. And I used to eat them a lot as a kid, the strawberry one in particular, the frosted one. But some of them are just god-awful. And I may be in the minority here, but like the chocolate ones, they don't taste anything like chocolate to me. So those throw me off. I did have one that was like a cookie batter one or something one time, where it just basically tasted like a sugar cookie, and that was pretty good. I'm also curious, drop a comment below, everybody, and you should be doing the same thing about your thoughts on all these other kind of things. I'm kind of slacking on the plug side of things here, but how many people actually toast their Pop-Tarts? Because I was not a toaster.
I'm a toaster.
I'm more of a microwave. It's sad, though. No, I don't microwave them either. Peas are good. Whether they're like snap peas or snow peas or regular peas, I'm a fan of them, as long as they're cooked well and stuff. So we got 2 votes for peas, which means that Callum and I are like 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah, there you go.
I had to.
two peas on a podcast, you might think.
Ah, that's even better. Somebody award the 10 points to Callum instead.
Yeah.
I could use them.
So, by the way, on the plug side, so I don't forget about it, if you are not following us on the Smark Out Moment Facebook and Twitter, they are both at Smark Out Moment. You should be following everybody on their own Twitter accounts in the comments below, Dude Felice and Wigmeister14. We've got the other things that are happening on smarkoutmoment.com that you should be checking out. There's obviously the YouTube channel that you're on right now you should be subscribed to, and you should ring that bell for notifications. If you are on the audio-only side of things and you are listening to us right now on the podcast platforms like iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and Spotify and Anchor and Podbean and whatnot, then head on over to the YouTube channel and do that, and that's where you can leave your comments, but leave us a rating on all those platforms if you can. We're going to wrap up some more of those in a little bit. Are you excited for It Chapter 2? Yes and no. Not a huge horror fan, but I will see it, because I've watched the first one, and I watched the Tim Curry movie. But it's not like I'm like, oh man, like, Avengers Endgame coming out, It too. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna see it. Should be good.
I saw it recently. It was okay. And I'll probably see it too at some point. But I can't say that I'm like, I need to watch this right now. I've never been much of I wouldn't even call it a scary movie. Just, I'm not a horror guy. Except for the Jigsaw movies.
Yeah, I'm also not a huge horror fan. I have seen bits and pieces of it. I haven't watched it the whole way through. I watched when I saw the first scene, essentially, of the kid getting his arm ripped off. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. But it's the first thing that happens, so you probably should have seen it. That is just... It's gruesome to me because it's a really small kid getting pulled and killed, and it's like, yeah, I don't really know if I'm into that kind of movie, because it just feels so like heartbreaking more than horrifying. And so I preferred the Tim Curry versions because they were a bit more cheesy special effects driven. And so
I agree.
I kind of prefer that very I don't know how to describe it, a bit more less special effects driven, less more just theater production type effects of the old school horror movies, as opposed to this new very digitally driven versions of stuff.
Fair enough. Who should request a release first, Sami Zayn or Robert Roode? I think that they're actually both better off in WWE.
Sammy's got more to get out of his career than Robert Roode does, so I think he has the more potential on wherever he was to end up. I think he could end up basically anywhere else and be one of the top stars. I don't know what they're planning with Sami Zayn Shinsuke Nakamura pairing, so maybe that has legs to it. I think it's interesting putting him more in a manager type role. Robert Roode's pretty much done anyway, but I think he hasn't really got much in too much to offer any other promotion beyond a couple more years. Like he's like 42, 43 now, so he's winding down the end of his career anyway. So if he spends a couple more of it in Impact or AEW or the NWA, it doesn't really matter too much.
I hate that they dropped the ball with Robert Roode. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes they could have made. Here's a guy who was pretty much Impact's, light version of Hunter, and when Hunter got his hands on him for NXT, he did great things with him. His entrances for the takeovers were some of the best moments of the takeovers he was on, and the main roster just took a big old dump all over him.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy, like Callum said, it's interesting to see him maybe being more of a manager for Nakamura, but I think he's got more that he can do, and I would rather see Bobby Roode leave.
See, my issue with Roode leaving is I think that he would go to AEW and James Storm would eventually go over too, and they would just sort of be like, remember these two from Impact? You guys love these guys. They're going to lose to a bunch of our tag teams. And he would kind of be booked. That doesn't really equate to the tag team thing, but kind of like what Greg the Hammer Valentine was in like the late WCW, where it's like, he's a legend, but we're never going to push him as like a Roddy Piper legend. I don't think he's got much to offer in any kind of other thing. I think that more so if he stays in WWE, maybe with this whole NXT and SmackDown switch up, maybe they start finding some of these people and they start pushing them a little bit more, and maybe he comes back into the mid-card side of things at the very least. Or maybe he sets himself up for a performance center job. That could be a good gig, We don't know
I
how...
think he deserved more.
He does. He should have been a world champion, I think, in WWE. And for this point, Sami Zayn has not won a single championship other than the NXT title. That is crazy. How has this dude not been Intercontinental Champion?
They don't know how to use him properly.
How'd they turn him heel? He was one of the few guys who I thought he could have been like a Ricky Steamboat. He never had to turn. Because, he just got that natural... For the love of God, he donates to all kinds of good causes. He's such a likable person. I guess he's filling that role of... He's such a do-gooder that it's almost nauseatingly annoying. Look, he's going to tell you how to live your life, haha. But he shouldn't have been turned to begin with.
I just feel like there's trends in WWE, and right now, one of the trends is if you were a good guy, let's make you a bad guy. If you were a bad guy, let's make you a good guy because we're sick of it. So that's why, Daniel Bryan is a heel, Sami Zayn is a heel, Kevin Owens is babyface, that kind of thing. Speaking of that, actually, that's a good transition. Rate Daniel Bryan as a heel on a scale of 1 to 10 Frankie gives him it's like 100,000 or something like that. No, it's more than that. 8.5, maybe. He could do better, but he's pretty good.
Solid 8. He is very good. He almost the exact opposite of what I just said about Sammy. He feels like he's totally playing a character. He knows what he's doing. Everything with him just works. Even though for some reason, even though he's fought Roman, I'm seeing him stand next to Roman now, and I'm like, oh, Brian doesn't have a lot of size on him. Huh.
By the way, if anybody hears a bunch of banging in the background, I'm not recording this next to a woodpecker. Just in case.
A solid 10 out of 10 for his. I would give Daniel Bryan a 10 out of 10 as a babyface and a 10 out of 10 as a heel. He commits fully to whatever character he's playing and he makes it work completely. I don't think there's anything he could be doing with his character right now that's any better than what he's currently doing.
Is he one of the best transitions ever from the independent scene? Like, here's a guy who, when he left, said, I want to go there because I want to work on my character skills. I know I'm one of the best wrestlers in the world. And he really solidified himself as somebody who can play a good character.
I get the feeling that people are going to look back 5-10 years after he retired and actually recognize that, yeah, he was arguably one of the greatest that's ever worked entirely, both in the ring and as a character as well. People from maybe the generation after us will hold him in the same regard as people from our generation hold people like Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle and people of that esteem.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the bigger stars for a reason. He deserves to be. And that's completely not in line with how I viewed him when he was originally in NXT, but I was wrong. So, always glad to be wrong about something like that. Triple H seemingly said the Mae Young Classic is coming back. I'm pretty sure he said that it definitely was, but that they kind of like... Well,
I think what happened
the translation was like, we want to do it, but we had some other shit and we ran out of time. Isn't that kind of like how the context was that you read it?
Yeah, because I think he basically said, we're doing it, we're shuffling it around because of certain things, and now we know those certain things are NXT is going to be at Full Sail every Wednesday, so it's probably harder to do.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to pull this off, and I don't think that it's a big priority for them. I think that they are looking at that as just sort of like, well, we don't have as much people to grab, and we're focusing on this Saudi Arabia thing, and we're focusing on shuffling the pay-per-view schedule around to accommodate that, and we're focusing on the wild card rule, and we're doing this stupid thing, and this stupid thing, and this stupid thing. It's been a year of WWE just tossing shit out at random, and total chaos, to the point where planning the Mae Young Classic probably became low on the priority side of things, and then next thing you know, they didn't plan it out, and we're at that time frame where it would be happening now, and instead we're getting a King of the Ring tournament, and I think that took over that kind of spot. But he asked... Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that that's okay. I saw a lot of, well, if we're getting King of the Ring, why aren't we getting Queen of the Ring? Like, I think it's okay right now that some of the underutilized men on the roster are getting that spot. And this year, we can maybe build some stars out of Buddy Murphy and Ali, and maybe next year we'll go back to the Mae Young Classic and find some new female talent.
But he also asks, who are some people you'd like to see in it? And I have a couple different names, but obviously I'm not the best to pinpoint, like, this person in Shimmer is really great, whatever. But I still say Mercedes Martinez should not only be in it again, but she should win it, and she should get that contract and signed to WWE. I think that they are really sleeping on her. I was a big fan of the Brandi Lauren and Shotzi Blackheart match from that Evolve show, so I definitely want those two to be in it. I liked when Caitlyn came back, and I forget who else it was. Oh my god, I'm blanking on who it was. Somebody else made a return one year.
Serena D.
Serena,
that's what it was, yeah. So I like when they bring in those people, and I would like to see maybe Victoria do that, or possibly Melina, if she's able to. just to bring somebody back who can wrestle from the older times. Tegan Nox deserves another opportunity. I would assume that not the lesser, but the lower ranked NXT class right now, the ones that only do like the live event stuff, that they probably will return. So Chelsea Green, Jessica Mia, Lacey Lane, Deonna Purrazzo, Santana Garrett, who was recently signed. I'm kind of working under the assumption that they will do that. So if like MJ Jenkins pops up, makes perfect sense.
Above all else, the one person that I'd want to return to a Mae Young Classic is Meiko Satomura, because I thought she was the best performer of the entire Mae Young Classic the previous year. And even though she's obviously a veteran, she is still excellent in the ring, and so I would like to see more of her doing matches. It's difficult because so many people have been signed now to either WWE or AEW or other promotions.
Or Impact or Ring of Honor.
Yeah, so the field is getting a lot thinner. I think basically all the people that you mentioned, so Tegan Nox should be in it again. I want to see Chelsea Green finally get on TV and do some matches. If you want to go with one of the veterans coming back, then Victoria and Melina work. Maybe if you can coax Molly Holly out of retirement into one final couple of matches, then that would be great. There isn't really anyone. There's not really too many other people that are standing out to me at this point. I haven't really done enough like in-depth research into the women's promotions recently.
I'm gonna try to hit on people who I know are not fully signed and names that you guys didn't say. So I'll say Ariel Monroe, Big Swole, who is doing the All Out Battle Royal but isn't fully signed. I think she should get another shot at it. I know Eva Lise just recently did a trial with WWE. She's doing the All Out Battle Royal. She should do a Mae Young Classic. She's signed, but I can't help it. Tessa Blanchard should be involved in anything in women's wrestling. I think she really is that good. And as far as a returning legend, I'll say Eve. I think Eve, towards the end of her career, was getting really good, and I'd like to see her have one or two matches to be able to show that side of herself.
This is another question. Would you rather see Tessa Blanchard come to WWE or LAX? Blanchard.
I don't want either of them to come to WWE.
Well, that's not how the game is played. Which one would you rather see? I think right now WWE is a much better place for women than it is for tag teams.
Yeah, which is why they need a tag team like LAX to come in and try and shake things up a little bit. I just go along as I honestly don't trust that they'll utilize Tessa Blanchard correctly, because Tessa Blanchard should be somebody you build your division around, and they have someone for that, and that's Charlotte Flair, and they have a secondary person to do that, and that's Becky Lynch. So Tessa would be third string at best. So I think she's better placed being in Impact Wrestling right now. They treat her in the position that she's supposed to be in.
As the man?
Yeah, essentially she is their biggest star, and they're treating her in that respect. LAX, I think, based on what I've seen respectively from WWE and AEW in response to tag team wrestling, are definitely far better place to go to AEW. But I wouldn't say Tessa should go to AEW or WWE. I think at the moment, she's perfect being a big fish in a small pond.
Is there anybody in Impact that you would want to see go to WWE?
No, because it's just along the lines, it's too crowded right now. And there needs to be a huge purge of WWE superstars before I consider anybody really from Impact or MLW or anything like that going to WWE, because it's just a case of stockpiling. Like, how many wrestlers do you want? Is it going to be like WCW back in the 90s that had 300 wrestlers on contract and only used about 30 of them every week?
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to be.
Yeah, it's not really something that I want to see happen. I want to see people actually have an opportunity to wrestle where they want, and if they're good enough, then I'll go find them.
Here's a fun question. I know that, Callum, you might not know this, but Shivani just signed to AEW, and reportedly WWE was interested in him. And we talk about 2001 on our podcast, And I happen to know in the 18 years since Shivani's been away, they had zero interest in him. How crazy is it that 18 years later, WWE is like, yeah, let's sign Tony Schiavone?
Yeah, it's so transparent.
Yeah, well, it's so obvious the reasons why they do it. It's the so obvious reason why they're going to put NXT on Wednesday nights. It's maybe they have like long-term visions of that happening, but there's only one reason why they're doing all this, and it just goes to show how even the hint of competition just throws their plans in complete disarray.
Which we're in that time frame right now where this is a very experimental, chaotic 2 years or so. This first year has been absolutely nuts in every freaking week. And next year is going to be total chaos too. And then 2021 could be a fantastic year for wrestling, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Would you rather have the wild card rule continue or have Vince McMahon have some part in NXT? Keep that fucking wild card rule. Don't put Vince in NXT.
No, I'm going to play the Callum role here. I don't want either of that. Fuck that. Fuck both of them.
Well, I'm not, my role in this one is to say they're both going to happen anyway, so what's the point of even making a decision?
Hey, you're the reason we can't have nice things, Callum. Let's just
I keep everyone's feet on the ground.
I don't
because it means that your face hurts less when you plant into it, when life just hits you in the back of the head with a steel chair. Just like Sasha did to Becky Lynch a couple of weeks ago.
Typical Galarian Callum.
Sorry, quickly, you hear me through my top hat?
Yeah, I can. Really quickly, just to toss it out there, everybody that's out there, if you want more talk about something like the Pokemon side of things and stuff, head on over to fanboysanonymous.com. That's where you're going to find some more stuff like that. If you want us to do more content for fanboys and you want us to have more discussions on things that are not on the pro wrestling spectrum, donate to the Patreon for Fanboys Anonymous, because that is the best motivator to be able to find the time to be able to do those kind of things. And the same thing applies to Smark Out Moment, because if there is more on the Smark Out Moment Patreon, then I can try to take out some time from writing an article, and instead of that, I can apply it to doing another podcast, or doing a commentary track, or doing another set of articles, or even another tournament. You know, I've got 3 a year, but who says that we can't do another one? So consider it. If you got the spare change, just toss that our way, and it helps keep the lights on and helps stop me from being in an area where people are doing a bunch of banging and stuff. And that's you know what, I'll toss this out there while too. If you want to have something physical for that, and you still want to toss a little money our way, then the merchandise shops are the best way to do that, because the TeePublic and the Redbubble pages for Smark Out Moment, A Mango Tees, and Fanboys Anonymous are all going to head in the same direction. So if you buy a sticker and I get my 18 cents or whatever for that, then, you know, that is a little bit along the way. When do you see Daniel Bryan turning babyface again? I actually would not be shocked if he turned after WrestleMania.
Yeah, I said kind of along the lines of post WrestleMania 36. I don't know how soon afterwards, but it will definitely be after this WrestleMania.
Yeah, he's not going to turn like in the next month or so. That's for sure.
I don't even see it happening anytime soon. Not even after Mania. He's a good heel, and I think they need those right now.
I feel like they're also going to feel like they need more baby faces, though. And that they're going to be like, well, you know what used to work was Daniel Bryan was a big thing, and let's make him another big star again. But we'll see. Do you think that Ricochet is ever going to win a world title? Unfortunately, no. I don't think so.
Right about now, I'm wishing he stayed in NXT. He'd still be on USA, and he could totally win that NXT title.
I'm not counting that as a world title, though.
Oh, well,
I'm thinking
he's not winning.
I'm thinking Universal and WWE Championship, and that's it.
Well, he's never winning that.
No, he's. I think they've got him pegged in the mid card, really.
To be fair, though, I mean, who would have thought that 11 years later Kofi Kingston would have won that title?
Yep, so maybe 10 years' time we'll completely change our mind on the situation.
Yeah.
Smark Out Moment, episode 1030.
Right after the time, 10 years from now, when Undertaker finally retires because Ricochet finally got around to beating him.
Yeah, and Terry
Yeah.
Funk retires The Undertaker in a Trish Stratus match. And do you think that Mysterio and Dominic will win the tag titles? I kind of think that might be on the schedule for WrestleMania.
Yep. Bingo.
Yeah, they don't care about the tag titles. They'll just throw them on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They threw him on Nicholas.
Yeah. I really think that that's the game plan. That they're going to start building up this Dominic thing, and we've got enough months by now that he can start working in the ring, and they can start figuring out some specifics behind this. And I'm, of course, completely confused about what's happening with the Raw Tag Team titles right now, because it didn't make any sense to me that Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins won those belts. Clash of Champions seems to be a complete mess right now, and I'm hoping that they have some kind of a game plan. But we know we're going to have to get new champions before Survivor Series. There's no way Braun and Seth are holding those titles.
What makes you think that they get out of next week with the titles, Tony?
Oh, they might not.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, sooner or later, the OC or some other kind of heel tag team will beat them for it. And then I kind of think that maybe they might lose it to somebody else who might lose it to somebody else, and then those people will lose it to Ray and Dominic. I could see this transitioning a couple times over the next few months.
I mean, at the moment they're just doing the classic trope of, the two guys who are the tag team champions, but they're feuding over the Universal Championship. What are they going to do? They do that at least once every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and it doesn't end up well for everybody.
That being said, because AJ's involved in all of that, I kind of see us getting a mess at Clash of Champions where every Raw title is defended in one match.
It could be a way that they looked at that and they said, you know what, let's do that. That'll cut out some of the matches on the card. We'll have, like, Styles puts up the United States Championship along with the OC, and I don't know, you need another person for that. That's kind of, maybe, I don't know. They do
a 3-on-2 handicap match.
Yeah, that could be how they do it. And if they end up winning, then they, win the tag titles and the Universal titles on the line, or maybe it's a triple threat, or I don't know. This whole thing's just a mess, but I do think that Mysterio and Dominic will win those tag titles.
And I'm going to go a step further, and then Dominic and Ray have a match at SummerSlam, possibly a ladder match for that mask.
I could see that being the case too.
There's no way that this doesn't end with they win the belts and then you're not even my father, Eddie's my father. There's no way that they don't go there. Everybody wants that, and there's just no way they don't do it.
Jason Jordan ends up being his dad, and they're like, you're paying off that Kurt Angle story somehow. Let's see here. Do you like Mario Kart? Yeah, Mario Kart's a lot of fun. Not my favorite game in the world, but, you're at a party, you pick it up, you play a couple games with people. Fun game.
I think it peaked on the GameCube, and I have Mario Kart on the Switch, but Double Dash is probably my favorite.
My first experience of Mario Kart was actually the most recent one on the Switch.
What?
So, well, I never owned it on Nintendo 64, so I never played it beforehand. And I didn't have a GameCube or a Wii or anything along those lines, so
not even the Super Nintendo one?
Wait, you didn't have it on the Game Boy Advance?
No. Oh. I mean, I did have a Game Boy Advance, but I just didn't get any Mario Kart games.
Are you an RPG guy? Are you an RPG kind of guy?
No, I played mainly on the Game Boy Advance. It was mainly Pokemon and a few other, like, more arcadey type games.
Okay.
I just never got into many Mario games, or like I've never played a Zelda game or anything along those lines. So Nintendo's just not my thing. I've always been pretty strictly, unless it's Pokemon, I've been strictly PlayStation. It's been my thing.
You always struck me as a Nintendo guy.
It's because I play a lot of Pokemon. That's literally like my Nintendo knowledge is Pokemon.
So this one's a big one. What are your thoughts on the NXT move? I talked about this on the hot tag, so I'm not going to repeat myself all that much, but I don't like it.
I've talked about this a lot too, but I don't have as many restrictions here. I think it's very dangerous, and I'm a little comforted by the fact that both Fightful and Pro Wrestling Sheet are reporting, don't worry about anything. Triple H has got a pretty tight grip on NXT, and I just don't see a situation where this doesn't somehow get into Vince going, what's this over there? I want to get my hands on this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little disconcerting. And also, even, let's say for a second that doesn't even happen. 2 hours with commercials is concerning for me because I feel like it'll lose part of its binging appeal. You know, NXT is a very bingeable show because it's 1 hour and you can watch, 5 or 6 of them right before a takeover and feel revved up, ready to go, and caught up. I don't know how that format works if you start to expand it. Will it lead to better things, or will it start to feel a little old hat?
There is so much to unpack with this type of question that you could probably spend like a whole podcast on itself talking about it. I think the main things that really stick in my mind about it is the idea of, first of all, it could be a really good thing. I can't go against the idea of like this could be a real benefit for people, especially in the lines of if they move to TV and they're getting paid for broadcasting these shows, there is an opportunity that people that are getting these meager NXT contracts compared to the main roster start getting paid a lot more money, which is the biggest benefit of all, really, as long as people are getting paid the right amount. But there are obviously a number of issues along the lines of, first of all, NXT can't be your developmental territory anymore, because now it's not there to be on the network to maybe draw a couple of eyes in and give people a chance to get a feel for working in front of the camera and stuff like that. Now its objective is to draw ratings. And so you need people to be ready to be television stars straight out the gate. So you need a new developmental territory.
Evolve.
Evolve or some other feeder system, an OVW or something along those lines. You need that now, because NXT is now a third brand, and we have to determine that it's now the third brand of WWE. It's not their developmental territory. It's not their minor league. It's not their second string. It's its own dedicated brand now. That means it's going to be part of the wild card rule. You're going to see top stars from Raw and SmackDown appearing on NXT to try and boost it up. You're going to see people from NXT appearing on Raw and SmackDown as well. You're going to see,
especially with the wild card rule.
Yeah.
Please stop talking about the wild card rule.
Whether Triple H has like the complete ownership of this, or like, Vince McMahon will have some influence or some direction, because let's face it, if the ratings come in the first couple of months and they're not at a level that USA are happy with, then Vince is going to think, well, something's got to change around here. Maybe we should make Bubba Tunde the NXT champion straight out of the gate or whatever, so those lines. But maybe it won't go that far, but they will start thinking, well, we've got to put people like Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins on NXT because that will get people's attention drawn to it. The big thing that maybe is exciting but maybe can be detrimental is the fact that it's going up against AEW, and so we have to see how big of a gap there's going to be between the two of them, because even though NXT was one of the biggest watched show on the network, that doesn't really mean that a ton of people were watching it. We can go based on the one show they've had on the USA Network, which was back in 2017, I think, where they got close to 1 million. I think it was about 850,000 or so viewers. So if that's their benchmark, and that's back in 2017, where Raw and SmackDown had about like 300,000 more viewers than they have now. So I imagine it will be somewhere hovering around the 500,000 mark by a couple of months in. If that's enough for USA, then fine, but I don't think it will make as big a dent in AEW as people expect it to, because I think out of the two of them, people will watch AEW live and will DVR NXT.
And that, too, is another thing, that NXT was one of the main reasons to get the WWE Network. Now it's going to be on a delay. Well, fuck you. What's the interest in that? If I can watch it on USA, I'm not going to watch it the next day late.
Yeah, it could mean that people. If NXT is proving like a big draw for the WWE Network, then that draw pretty much disappears, and so people might unsubscribe as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the aspect of along the lines of having the shows filmed at Full Sail. I've always said that the Full Sail crowd is really, really difficult to perform in front of, and they don't create a great atmosphere a lot of the time. Now, the fact that it's only been recorded in 1 or 2, it's going to be 2 week, isn't it? 1 week tapes.
Nope.
1 week. Oh, is it
Nope.
all live?
Every week live. You only get one. They're in Full Sail every week for 2 hours.
Well, first of all, I don't know how they're going to keep drawing crowds to these shows because it's all in front of the same market, and eventually they'll get tired of it. And I think just for in front of that crowd is not going to really sit well with a television audience that's used to Raw and SmackDown being in big arenas, whereas these guys will be performing in front of 400 people a week.
And then if they start touring, then they have to add that production cost on everything, and then that burns people out more. And then you start going into, well, they can't even sell out Raw and SmackDown anymore. How are they going to sell out an NXT? So they go with a smaller venue, which means a smaller venue means that it doesn't translate as well as being this big, grandiose project. And then when you're burning people out on that, you're also burning people out on a whole extra hour of NXT. So you're incorporating more people. You're seeing them more often. They're wrestling more. You're getting into the problem where a Johnny Gargano type, he was injured. And they didn't have him on this past bunch of tapings. So he wasn't on the episodes, but he was able to be a part of the build towards that last takeover because they incorporated him in other ways. And you only had 1 hour to fill, and you could pre-tape stuff ahead of time, and he could go rest at home. Now you're going to have double the amount of stuff to do every week. Because it's live, they're not going to plan things out as much in advance. And people are going to get injured more, and then that's going to be more of a problem. There is almost like no positive to this thing.
Yeah, and also something that a lot of people have brought up on other forums and situations is what's happening with Mauro Ranallo.
He's
staying,
doing
I
it
think.
every week. He's doing it every week.
But just the idea of him doing every week schedule due to his like mental health conditions, and the fact that when he previously did a full-time schedule as part of SmackDown, I know obviously a lot of that was down to JBL's antics and other stuff behind the scenes, but if he has to work a very consistent, regular schedule along those lines, that could burn him out very quickly.
Yeah, he could need to take breaks every once in a while, and then when he takes a break, then we're going to end up getting, we're replaced with David Otunga for this edition, which is like, that's not going to be a good thing. And
Big Joseph will be fine.
Yeah, it will probably be Big Joseph, but it's just along the lines of, there's so many aspects to consider that because they did this so quickly, I imagine they've been discussing this for a couple of months, but the fact that it's all come to the fore in terms of being breaking into news relatively quickly, especially with the idea that it was originally going to go to FS1 and now USA popped up, it makes me feel like they haven't thought this through as much as they should have done.
No, they definitely did not. This is very much...
They've worked to they've flying by the seat of their pants in order to get the jump on AEW, rather than plan this out as constructively as they possibly could to make sure that it was the perfect launching pad for this to happen.
Yeah, and if they end up getting lucky, then they're going to be like, see, I knew that we had it already. And if they end up failing because they didn't plan this out ahead of time, then what unfortunately is most likely going to happen is they're going to blame the NXT people. And they're going to be like, see, I told you that nobody gives a shit about this developmental people. You know what? We should cut the funding, and we should do this, and we should fire some of these people, and we should put some of these other people in the mix instead, and Kevin Dunn should be running the production side. And then it's going to be like, okay, well, then you're just Raw and SmackDown again. And if people aren't watching that show, and the reason that they like NXT is because it's different from those two, and you just do the exact same things, then you're running yourself into the fucking ground. It's like...
Yeah, and then you could be in a no-win situation where people will if people do start watching more NXT and NXT's ratings actually rise while SmackDown's and Raw ones are failing, they'll start to poach people from NXT in order to move them to Raw and SmackDown to get their ratings up. Whereas and NXT will be full of the also rans that weren't getting attention on SmackDown and Raw. And so you just be, we're being main evented by Apollo Crews against I don't know,
Bo Dallas.
Bo Dallas, or we have a match between Curtis Axel and Razor or something along those lines.
And then once they go to the main roster, then the way that they do the main roster things, they'll run into the same problem that a Tyler Breeze has, where it'll be like, well, it's different on the main roster, and the things that you did in NXT that were really well, they don't work. And this happens at the same time as, and this is not a mailbag question, but I feel like I need to just vent about it too, is this whole Spider-Man thing with Marvel.
Yay.
Disney, for anybody who does not know about the whole Marvel MCU package with Spider-Man, Sony bought the rights to use the Spider-Man character and its library of characters years and years and years ago, back when Marvel was going out of business. And that's how we ended up getting the Sam Raimi movies. And that's why when you do these kind of deals, there's a certain amount of time that you can have a little bit of leeway where you've not made a film, but eventually the rights expire. And that's why there's been a Fantastic Four movie twice that only happened when they were running out of the whole deal kind of side of things. So they tried to reboot it. They did the Andrew Garfield movies. They didn't work out all that well. I personally like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but the movies are flawed. And then they decided that they just didn't know what they were doing. And all these Sony leaks happened, and they found out all these awful plans that they had wanted to do. They wanted to do a Sinister Six movie. They wanted to do a Craven movie. They wanted to do all these kind of terrible films. And they realized that the MCU was working out well. So they partnered up with Marvel and Disney. And that's why we got this Tom Holland Spider-Man, and we've gotten him put into the MCU. And their deal is, or it used to be, that Disney would get the merchandise sales, and they would get 5% of the revenue, if I remember correctly, whereas Sony would get 95% of it, and they wouldn't necessarily have to know what to do because they're not the people who know how to do the creative side of things, and Disney and Marvel and all them, they would take care of that. So they would basically steer the ship and tell Sony what to do, and Sony was like, well, we've got the rights, so we're going to lord that over you. Well, the deal has changed, and now maybe there's an update from the past couple of hours, I'm not too sure, but now it seems like what's happening is they're splitting their ways because Disney was like, look, I'm doing all the fucking work, and I think that we should split it. It should be 50-50. We should put 50% of the cost and 50% of the revenue, and that's just fair. And Sony was like, fuck you, no, I think that we know what we're doing now. And we're going to make our Venom movie have Spider-Man in it. And we're going to do that Black Cat and Silver Sable movie. And if you thought that you wanted a Prowler movie, well, it's going to be awful. And I feel like the exact same thing is happening here to a certain extent with NXT, where Sony didn't know what the hell they were doing. And they were failing with the Spider-Man characters, which are some of the most rich characters in all of comics, DC and Marvel. They failed at it multiple times. Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2, tons of failed projects. And yet they got lucky with Into the Spider-Verse and with Marvel and Disney telling them what to do with these other movies, which I still think have a lot of flaws in them too. I love the Tom Holland ones as much as I think I could if a couple things were different. And now that they've gotten this success, I feel like they are looking at that as, oh, thank you for helping us. We're going to take it back, and then we're going to reap the benefits of it. And I feel like NXT is in a similar situation where Triple H has been doing what he needed to do to make that brand something successful. Raw and SmackDown are struggling. And Vince McMahon and some of the other people are like, oh, it's great. Well, we can take over, and we know what we're doing. Thanks for making this a thing. And all they're going to do is they're going to use their ideas to ruin NXT, as opposed to be something that could be like the missing element to make NXT even better. I feel zero confidence that NXT is going in the right direction. I'm going to be burnt out. I got an extra hour's worth of stuff per week. No spoilers to be able to help out on that side of things. Competition with AEW. There's no way I can watch NXT and AEW at the same time, so I have to figure out which one I'm going to do. And more than likely, there's not going to be live coverage of AEW on Smark Out Moment because I just cannot do that. And I'm already burnt out as it is, and you start tacking more hours onto the week and all that, do two things at the same time. It's just impossible. So one of those two is going to have to suffer, and if NXT ends up really sucking, then if AEW is great, then I'm not going to be able to watch NXT, and I'll watch AEW, and that's a terrible situation. and I just no confidence in this, none at all.
I feel like while a lot of things that we have all just outlined paint a grim situation, they're also going into this doing the right thing. They didn't say, hey, we're fuck you, Full Sail. We're taking the show on the road. They're starting small. They're not leaving that core fan base. Will the core fan base be able to get there every week instead of, once
every 2 months?
Yeah. Maybe not, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of the same fans go to every show because they're just wired like that. Like some people just manage to get out to every show like that. So maybe you'll see the same hardcore fan base show up every week. With the Mauro Ranallo thing, I think it's good that he's going to be the voice every week because he's a great part of that presentation. Will he be burned out? Maybe, but again, a lot of that other stuff was very heavily reported on JBL bullying. So maybe without somebody being a dick, Mauro Ranallo will be okay.
And Vince on the headset too.
Well, there you go. And Triple H is supposed to be the core guy taking control of all this. I think there's a lot of positives here. There's the Wednesday night war, if you want to call it that. It's so much different than the Monday night war. This is for the hardcore fan. Raw and SmackDown are almost their own anomaly now in another way. Like, they're not even what AEW is going to be competing with. AEW's head-to-head with this wrestling brand. So I think while there's a lot going on that I can't defend anymore, like I tried to with the Evolve thing, this is a dick move. You're getting the jump on them 2 weeks. You're doing exactly what you said. Oh, so ruthless competition when Ted Turner decided to do that in 95. You're relishing that you get to do this 14 years later. But now I also feel like we could be for the best time ever in wrestling. We could be. As long as everything stays the way all the reports are suggesting it's going to stay, this could be the most fun watching wrestling has ever been. I'm going to be fucking exhausted on Wednesday night, but at least the product will be really good going there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say, but I don't think that's going to happen.
And
that's just me. That's just me. And I think me and Tony are pretty much the same boat with that one.
So you ready to move on to the second to last question?
Yeah, right. Yeah, sounds about right.
Do you think that NXT will ever have their own Hall of Fame? Nope.
Nah, I don't. Why would they? I don't think it's particularly necessary.
I think their equivalent is going to be maybe some kind of a plaque at the Performance Center that says, like, noteworthy Performance Center graduates. Something like that.
I think they should just do that for everybody. Just have, like, a wall in Full Sail University that just has, like, a plaque of all people that have graduated. Like, who have appeared on Raw and SmackDown and whatever.
Well, do you really want to put, like, I don't know,
Odell's
Bolt Dempsey on there?
Well, he didn't go to Raw and SmackDown.
Oh, yeah. Specifically Raw and SmackDown ones.
Yeah, and it needs to be someone who graduated, yeah. I know it's been like you would have people like Apollo Crews on there that haven't really done too much, but, it should be still seen as some sort of achievement.
You think we get the Ascension back on NXT?
Yep. 100%.
I'm cool with it.
Especially with this idea that they might be canceling more and more of these Raw and SmackDown live events. I think that maybe there's less of a reason to incorporate those people. And our final question here, do you think that Chris Jericho will ever come back to WWE? He 100% will come back to WWE.
Yes.
Now, do you guys agree with me on this or disagree with me on this, that he will actually come back after this current deal? I think he is.
I don't know for certain. I think the thing about Jericho is that he's always great at spotting the opportunities to make the most buzz possible. That's been his thing since ever since his last run in WWE. He always waits until the perfect opportunity to make the biggest name for himself, which is perfectly fine, totally what he should be doing. So if he feels the biggest thing for his brand and his own stature is to go back to WWE and try and make a final big run there, then he'll do that. If he thinks that AEW has got a lot of traction and is gathering a lot of eyes and is starting to pull in WWE in terms of a wrestling war, then he'll stay with AEW. And if he doesn't think either of them, and there's, I don't know, the NWA is getting a huge amount of buzz, or Impact Wrestling has moved to an actual television station that's worth a damn, then maybe he'll just do that, just because people will think that it's crazy and will follow him along. I think he's on a crusade to prove that he is the biggest draw in professional wrestling right now.
And I feel like when his deal comes up in AEW, he's going to leave because he'll have already established something to tout that he established this brand, and he could say that forever. And if AEW starts to lose steam and he leaves, then he could be like, yup, see, look what happened. Without me, the brand didn't really work and all that. And WWE, at that point, will be like, oh, his deal's coming up. We're going to steal him away from AEW. Hey, Chris, we really want you to back in here, buddy, whatever. And can get a big deal out of that. Maybe he gets a short run. Maybe it's a Hall of Fame induction, something like that. Maybe it's just a big paycheck to kind of be like, we're going to steal him away from AEW. And then Chris just laughs his way to the bank,
I think that Chris Jericho, for what he's doing right now, he's earned the spot that he has in pro wrestling. And like Alan says, he's on a crusade to prove that he can be the biggest draw in wrestling. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's part of the reason why he's reinvigorated right now, because he has that fire in him to be like, no, I can carry a company. I can be, a Hogan. I can do this. Do I think he comes back out to this current deal? I'm going to say no, because I want to believe AEW is going to be kicking ass in 3 years. But maybe in 5, 6, maybe.
He'll definitely finish his career in WWE, I think. Or at least, in the fold, probably with the Hall of Fame induction. Then he'll concentrate on his music and television presenting work and stuff along those lines. But I imagine that his last match will be in a WWE ring.
Yeah, then who knows who that'll end up being up against. But we'll see. So, those are the mailbag questions. So thank you to everybody who sent those in. And if you did not get a chance to send something in, or we did not answer one of the questions that you did, and you want to make sure that we pass that along for next month, then start thinking of them, start sending them my way, because the September one will come on at some point. Not too sure off the top of my head exactly when that's going to happen, because the only thing I know for sure is that the next couple of episodes are going to be pay-per-view based. We got the hot tags coming up immediately first on Monday night. But then we've got the NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff predictions, and eventually the post-show for that, and the All Out predictions, and the post-show for that one. So I don't know how we're going to do the post-show for both of those. We might have to do a very quick TakeOver one that might be on the 15 to 20-minute spectrum. Depends on how long we have between that and the All Out thing. Or it might end up having to be sacrificed, where we might have to do that as part of the hot tags for the next thing. I'm not entirely sure, and we'll figure that out on Sunday and everything, and if we know any more information beforehand, we'll tell you. But predictions will be the main event for next week, and stay tuned for that, and make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, and that you click on that notification bell to be aware of when those videos get posted. And you should also be checking smarkoutmoment.com for that, and for anything else that we have going on. And these two have other things going on that they should fill you in on, so Callum, go ahead.
Well, if you are staying tuned to the YouTube channel and podcast feed, Smark Out Moment, you'll see something coming up in your inbox soon, which will be 2001: A Wrestling Odyssey August edition. We'll hopefully be recording that sometime towards the end of this week, me and Rob. So that episode will be coming out. If you want to build up your knowledge of 2001 in the build up to it, then You can go back and check out all our other episodes from January, February, March, all the months that are leading up to August. And yeah, it's just me and Rob going back to the year 2001, checking out the events that were taking place, all the news going on. So definitely stay tuned for that. After that, you could follow me on Twitter at Weekmeister14 and check out the power rankings on the smarkoutmoment.com website, along with all the other weekly articles. And then I pass it over to Rob because I'm done.
While you're checking out the weekly articles, you can check out the Triple Threat, which this week will feature even more discussion on the upcoming Wednesday Night War, NXT versus AEW. On top of all that, you can check out eWrestling News, check out the WrestleZone Daily, which I do Monday through Thursday at around 6 p.m. Eastern on the WrestleZone Facebook page. We're also on the WrestleZone podcast feed, so just search WrestleZone Radio wherever you get your podcast. And Fightful. Fightful is an awesome wrestling website which has broken a lot of exclusives over the past year and a half, and I'm joining their team now on the weekends, and it's been a great experience, so you should also check out Fightful.com.
Alrighty, everybody, that is it for this edition. Thank you for listening, as always, and thank you for all of your support, whether it was a like, or a Patreon donation, or a comment, or just some well wishes that were tossed our way. It's all greatly, greatly appreciated, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.